everyone, welcome back at Charlotte from at Charlotte's House. I am out in my shed and I am going to try to make something from all of these beautiful oyster shells that we found on the beach the other day. Stay tuned. For my idea, I need a round wooden surface. And I have this scrap wood left over. This is pretty thin. I want to say it's 1/8 of an inch plywood. I will put the description in the video notes, but I want to draw a circle, and here's how I'm going to do it. This is a piece of scrap wood. And what I've done is I have 2 drill bits. One is pretty skinny, and that's for the screw in the middle. One is pretty thick, and that is for my pencil. And so all I've done is I've drilled 1 hole through the middle, and then I've gone ahead and I've screwed it in place. Notice that I didn't screw my screw in all the way. I need this board to move. Then I've drilled a hole through this side so my pencil can fit. So all I'm going to do is twist this around like that, and now I have a perfect circle. I am going to get my jigsaw, I'm going to cut that out, and then let's see what we're going to do with these shells. Perfect. Whenever you're working with shells, you want to make sure that you treat them in some way so that you don't end up with that fishy smell. Now, my shells, I have to confess, they'd all been sitting out in the sun for days. There's no fishy smell whatsoever, so I'm not doing any of that to my shells. But normally, I would suggest either putting them in a solution of water with maybe a tiny bit of bleach. Vinegar might work. You just want to do something to kill any bacteria so you don't get that fishy smell. Once you have a container of non-fishy smelling shells, you want to sort them by size. I may not need to do this in the long run, but I figured it can't hurt when I go to assemble my piece, so that's what I'm working on now. The next thing that I'm doing is I am painting around the edge of each shell with a plain old craft brush, and I'm using just an assortment of blues and light blues and aquas from my acrylic craft paint stash. You can see I've gone ahead and I've painted the wooden background. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just don't want it to be wood because you can see through the shells. And then I've used a tacky glue to glue the mirror in place. I didn't want to use anything stronger than that for fear that it might damage the back of the mirror and I would see marks from the glue. This should be fine. So obviously that is centered. Now comes the fun part. Do you remember that I divided my shells into different sizes? This is where that's going to come in handy. I've actually already dry fit these shells, so I know they're gonna work. I am going to start with the larger shells around the outside perimeter, and I'm gonna work in so that the smaller shells are right on the mirror. You don't see a ton of the mirror, the wood behind the shells, but this is why I've painted it white. So I'm just going to arrange them. I'm being careful to sort of spread out the colors. I'm going to use a combination of hot glue and tacky glue. The reason for this being, sometimes I find that a hot glue gun for smoother things, it doesn't always work perfectly, but I appreciate that it works immediately. All right, I finished with the first row. Now I'm going to go back and I am going to squeeze in some of this tacky glue just to make sure that it fills in some of the gaps. Next, I'm going to bring out the smaller shells and lay out the second layer. Notice that I'm overlapping these a little bit, so there is a slight angle to them. Because these aren't lying particularly flat, I'm not super pleased with how secure they are. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna first secure them along the bottom, and then I think I'm gonna go back with the combination of tacky glue and my glue gun and try to get behind them a little bit as well. I'm thinking to finish this off, I'm gonna do one more row than I planned on. I have just enough of the smaller shells, and these are actually all unpainted, and I don't know, I sort of like that look. I'm adhering these right on to the mirror. I ended before, and I didn't love that you could see the edge of the mirror. Now you may be noticing that there are tons of hot glue threads all over. I'm going to show you how to clean those up in just a minute. Never fear. I'm just using my HomeRite Heat Pro Deluxe. And it may be hard for you to see, but I see all those little threads just disappearing. I wanted to show you how I've handled hanging this mirror. So I've simply screwed in some D-rings into this piece of scrap wood, and then I've used wood glue to attach it to the back. The mirror is not very heavy, so this should be plenty secure, but in hindsight, I would have screwed this in before, I think. I don't really want to screw it in now because I'm worried that I might crack the mirror. But I'll put some wire there. What do you think? Finished. I have gone around and I've just lightly tapped on all the shells to make sure that none of them have come loose, that none of them are wobbly. I'm hoping that the combination of hot glue and craft glue will keep this pretty secure, but honestly, if one falls off, it'll be super easy to go and re-glue it, so I'm not too fussed. I'm obviously gonna hang this somewhere where it won't get bumped into. It's more for decoration, but I really, really like it. So leave me a comment, let me know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and have a great day, everyone.